also want to thank anyone who is listening to us this morning on live stream. Wherever you are, please know that even from a distance that you are part of our spiritual community, and we bless your presence today. And most especially my sister Jen, who's watching us from up in Seattle. I know for sure this morning. So, yes. So if you have friends who might avail themselves of this teaching and they live a distance from our center, please do let them know that we are live streamed and that they can hear us from an archive anytime they want on a Sunday. They don't have to do it first thing in the morning. Today I want to talk about the law of cause and effect. And, there's that picture again. Okay. I really am cause to my own effect today. That picture is probably 10 years old. Oh well, I'll get over myself if I don't look at it. You've often heard me speak to being cause to my own effect, and that is one of the basic premises of this teaching, that whatever I think, I become that experience. And so thought is an incredibly important component of this thing called the science of mind, that we stand vigilant over whatever it is that we're thinking today. The law of right return, which is the title of this talk, or the law of cause and effect, is not new to the science of mind. It has been known in the Oriental teachings as karma. And it is in fact a truth that is prevalent in many of religious teachings. And in the Quran, for instance, it says, "And ye will be paid on the day of resurrection, only that which ye have fairly earned." In the New Testament, it says, "Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." Confucian teachings say, "What comes out of you shall return." Hinduism reminds its seekers, "You cannot harvest what you have not sown. The tree will grow as you sow it." So all of these things are congruent with this idea of karma, or the cause and effect as we understand it. And in the science of mind, it really shouldn't be cause and. It should be cause effect, because you can't really have one without the other. And lastly, someone new to me, I met wonderful Rabbi Michael Barkley this week, who has a work in Agora, a fairly new work in Agora. And just a delightful man. I spent about 2 hours talking to him on whatever day that was, Thursday afternoon. And he will be part of our interfaith panel next Wednesday when we do that. So I want to encourage everyone to be here. But he talked about Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz as we were having our conversation, and it just so happened I ran across a quote by Rabbi Steinsaltz and in his introduction to the Kabbalah. And I learned from Rabbi Michael, it's not Kabbalah, it's Kabbalah. That's how you pronounce it in Yiddish, apparently, or in Hebrew. Everything that a man does creates in return a vital flux. The totality of his spiritual being is involved in each of his actions. Whoa, the totality of who I am and who we are is involved in every part of us. Everything that we do, everything that we think, and everything that we say. I particularly like that comment because there is no part of us, our thinking, our being, and our doing, that is not subject to a karmic experience of some kind. Not from a previous life, but from this life. And that comes up a lot when there are new students to the science of mind. You know, karma as a Hindu concept is sometimes bringing something from a previous lifetime. Well, I don't know about you, but I have enough trouble in this lifetime. I don't need to go back and figure out what happened before I got here, before I incarnated into this lifetime. So if I could get something of value across to every person who comes to this teaching, it would be for us to understand completely the personal responsibility we have for the outcome of our lives. Now, that may seem a little bit heavy on the outset, but Ernest Holmes tells us over and over again in his writings that we live in a universe that is all energy. It's all energy. And that even the most mundane in our lives requires a use of this energy in some form or another. Even the teeny tiniest things have to be thought through and have to be done with intention. It's not to set a goal or to have a long-term desire realized. It's really about our everyday experience. The most powerful discovery in humankind, according to Ernest Holmes, was that we could think. And this is the single most powerful energy of all, because it gives rise to every other thing in our lives. You know, I don't know any of you have ever done something and then smack yourself upside the head and go, what was I thinking? Well, you know, life in retrospect is a lot easier. You know, we can look back on what we were thinking and how it created what's going on in our lives today. And for that reason, we get to choose again. We get to find a different way of expressing ourselves if the previous thought process didn't work out for us. Everything, again, is created twice. Once in thought, then in form. Everything. Everything is created twice. We need to stand guard, as I said, at the gate of our thoughts, because those thoughts will inevitably return to us with increased positive or negative energy. Now, some people who are new to the teaching find this to be a very difficult concept, because what about all those thoughts I thought yesterday? What about all those thoughts I thought 5 years ago? Are they going to come up to bite me in the butt at this time of my life? You know, wait, I got it all handled. Well, we start with a clean slate on a daily basis. So I'm giving you that. Everything, like I say often on Sunday morning, that happened before today could have been somebody else's fault. Today, you get to take personal responsibility for everything that happens. So, years ago, my friend Lee confided in me that she was in love with my friend Skip, and had been for a very long time. Now, if I can tell you this story without blubbering, I'll be really surprised, and so will you. She set an intention to one day be his wife, or certainly to be in a committed relationship with him. And she waited patiently for 6 years while giving him time to come to his awareness of his love for her as well. And yesterday, up in Apple Valley, I performed the wedding ceremony for my friends, Reverend Skip Regan and Reverend Lee Waddell. Yes. Some of you have had the pleasure of knowing Skip Regan because he was here when I first came here. And all things being equal, she'd been ready for this relationship to burgeon for a very long time. And he, on the other hand, took a little longer to make the decision and take the leap of faith, as the saying goes. And just after the beginning of the ceremony, their song is called At Last. And it's one of my favorite songs, right? And so appropriate. Yes. And they were Skip was on this side of the lectern, and she was on this side of the lectern. They were like far apart, right? And then the music began to play, and I thought, wait, get together here. You know, you're getting married. Show a little relationship for the congregation. And what they did was they began dancing. And they danced to their own song. And as the song was playing, she turned to me, and I was really cool up to that point, right? I was very cool. I had it all together. She turned to me and she said, I promise you, I'll take care of him. And you won't have to put out a contract on me, she said. So it was funny and it was poignant all at the same time. And I've known my friend Skip for 30 years. And I have wanted to see him in a healthy and holy spiritual relationship for a very long time, as I know Reverend Keith has as well. He's such a good person. And it wasn't meant to be for him until Lee came along, who is also such a good person. And she came along to mirror, to mirror his wholeness. So this is the law of right returns. This is cause effect. And she promised, like I said, to take care of him and to love him forever. And I absolutely know for him that this relationship is the relationship of the rest of his life. In his book, The Gentle Art of Blessing, Pradavand says that there's a wonderful story. It's a parable. And you know, parables can sometimes be very confusing. They're sort of Middle Eastern in their proportion sometimes, and those people have a problem. And they don't always, they aren't always as direct as I would like them to be. That's the problem. Anyway, the sage was explaining to a group of students that the most profitable good deed consisted of praying for one's enemies. And in cursing one's enemies, he said, this does far more damage to oneself than it does to the other person, than it does in blessing them, for instance. One of the students said that he didn't understand this, since a powerful curse, according to him, well aimed, could destroy an enemy. And so the sage began to tell the students this parable of the white and black birds. And it goes like this. In their relations between themselves, people are like two walls facing each other. Each wall is full of small niches in which nest these black and white birds. The black birds are bad thoughts or words. The white birds represent our good thoughts and words. The white birds, because of their shape, can only enter into the holes for white birds. And the black birds, the same is true for them, they can only nest in the holes for blackbirds. At this point, the sage suggests to the students to imagine two people who consider themselves enemies. Now, I won't go into who they are in terms of the story, but it could be two former friends, for instance, or a couple who have divorced. Their relationship has ended, for instance, or even a boss or an employee kind of situation. That seems to work better for me. And if I believe that my former boss or my ex-husband is speaking ill of me and plotting against me, I send him or her a negative thought, thereby releasing a black bird and freeing a niche of the same color on my wall. The black wicked thought bird goes to his or her wall, searching for an unoccupied nest of the same shape, but finding none. Bear in mind that the ex-husband or the former boss does not respond by sending me a harmful thought, so no black niche would be available for the oncoming bird that I've sent out. Interesting, right? So it will return to its original niche in my wall, laden with all the intended misery I planned to send out. Not having managed to harm my ex-husband or my former boss, it now comes back to harm me, for evil, as the sage says, sagely, never stays inactive, even and especially to the one who gives birth to it. Whoa. So even if my thoughts and my words towards somebody else are sent out there into the ethers and they have no place to land or no place to rest, they're going to come back to me, sometimes multiplied abundantly. An interesting aside here is that if my ex-husband plays into my hands, for all this is happening on a subjective level anyway, and it's all part of my own imagination, and the ex sends out his own black nasty thought, bird, we are now trading evil thoughts and words for evil thoughts and words. And both birds will have reached their goal and harmed the people they were aimed at. Interesting parable, right? Goes on to say, the parable goes on. Once their task is completed, each bird will return to its original nest. For it is said, each thing returns to its source. The evil with which they were loaded, not being depleted, it will return against its author and will finish by destroying them. The author of an evil thought, an evil wish, or a curse is thus hurt by both his enemy's blackbird and his own blackbird, which returns to him. Of course, the opposite is true. Now, that's a story about how bad things happen to good people sometimes. You know, sometimes we have errant thoughts. Sometimes our thinking is not consistent with our perfection. Sometimes we are in a mood, as Joe Dispenza would say, in a mood. And we do feel hurt or harmed by another person in some way. But generally speaking, as I always say in class, nobody wakes up in the morning. Hank doesn't wake up in the morning and say, boy, I'm going to get Kelly. You know, nobody sets that intention during the day. So we send out good thoughts and blessings even when we feel we are being sent messages to the contrary. We override the negative messages. And that's our job as really good functioning religious scientists who know that the power of mind is very clear. We can sort of erase any thoughts to the contrary that might be showing up. They may not show up from the mouths of those we struggle with in our day-to-day relationships, but often we will hear from a third party, perhaps that someone might have been bad-mouthing us, or someone might have been making comments about us that are really not knowledgeable. Because if we were really practicing this principle in our lives, we would never say an unkind word to another person, because that unkind word just bounces off them and comes right back to us. Those blackbird thoughts or words cannot find a nesting place in our consciousness if we are consciously creating blessings for the people that we have in our lives. And our thoughts will return filled with positive energy. And the blackbirds of our opposing energetic will be returned to the sender stronger than when they left. So the idea here is, this is the ultimate parable of cause and effect. This is the ultimate parable of the law of right returns. The sage goes on to finish the parable, and he says, if we send only good thoughts, no evil, no curse can ever reach us in our being. He said, that is why we must always bless friend and foe alike. Not only will the blessing fly toward its objective to fulfill its mission of appeasement, but it will, one way or another, return to us with all the good with which it was loaded. I like that. I like that idea. You know, that we are circulating positive thoughts no matter what the circumstance or the situation is. And this whole parable was infinitely appealing to me because it illustrates cause and effect through myth and metaphor. And even though the two actual people in the parable were Ali and Yosef, I thought that using an ex-husband and an ex-boss and an ex-friend would be more relatable than two Eastern guys. You know, that works out better for us, right? But in the story, Pradervan says, there is still a degree of self-interest in that any good thoughts I have will return to me and do me good. That can't be the reason, he says. It cannot be the reason that I do this. It has to be just simply because I love doing this. The Course in Miracles tells us that there is another level of consciousness from which to practice blessing, and that is from the state of totally unselfed, this is a new word too, thank you very much, unselfed love, or that place where the ego has simply melted away. As it says in The Little Prince, the unselfed love is loving because we love. There's no reason to love. We just do it. We don't have to have a reason to love someone. It's not I love you because. It's not I'll love you when. It's not I'll love you if. I love you. Period, the end. Let's say that together. I love you. No, not period, the end. I love you. There you go. Well, period, the end. So there is no reason to love. More accurately, we don't need a reason to love. Don't need a reason to love somebody. Why do you love that person? I don't know, I just love them. Wouldn't it be nice if we could say that about everybody? Loving in this way is the most, and I'm not talking about, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about agape love. I'm talking about spiritual love. I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking. Loving in this way is the most natural expression of our true being. And I saw that a little bit for my friend Skip and Lee yesterday. I did. I mean, I saw this relationship that is so incredibly comfortable, and it is just the right and perfect relationship, and they are freaking polar opposites. They are. He was dressed to the nines in his tuxedo. She had a beautiful gown on, but the minute the ceremony was over, she was barefoot. That's the way she is. And I wore sandals in her honor yesterday, because this woman is just a free spirit who is just, and Skip, you know, if you remember him, he can be a little bit uptight sometimes. So this was a good relationship. It's a perfect relationship. So if everything we do as conscious spiritual beings is predicated on love, then love becomes the very fabric of our lives. It does. It becomes that piece of tile in the mosaic of our lives, like Michael said. And with love as the cause, love is the effect. Pretty simple, right? Pretty simple. When I bless, I am blessed. When I love, I am loved. The law of right returns guarantees my experience of life is one of white birds. White birds. That's why they release those white doves at every wedding, most weddings outside. Good thoughts, good wishes, and good deeds. Because I have chosen to see the good in everyone and in all things. I know that this may be a daunting task for some of us who have had experiences that were less than comfortable. But Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Hitch your wagon to a star." He said that. When we want to reach high, we need to begin by aiming high, knowing that with God, all things are possible. Will you join me, please, in consciousness? And so it is from that place of absolute, joyful thought that I know that the power and presence of Spirit is at the core of who I am. That the intrinsic value of each and every one of us, as Aman Motwani says in his little book, Yes, You Can Change the World, is the most important awareness that we can have as spiritually evolved people. That part of me, that valued part of me that is inherent in each and every one of us, is that part of me that's unchangeable, that is always loving, always positive, always perfect, always in peace and harmony. And so I know today that for some of us, it may be an opportunity to just stand guard at the thought gate about which thoughts are positive and which thoughts are negative. Not that we need to monitor every thought we have, but to really today get a handle on which negative thoughts are coming back to me and showing up in my life. As I speak this truth for everyone here present today, I know unequivocally that there is a power and presence in my life that is transcendent in its proportion, and that transcendence comes to me on a daily basis by means of my own clear thinking. That as I move through life with grace and ease, I find it an easier proposition when my thoughts and my conversations are made in heaven, as Ernest says. That knowing that forever and ever it is God speaking to God and God listening to God, then I know that I get to only say powerful, present, personal, and precise statements about what it is that I believe. Because those beliefs are about me. They're not about anyone else. And so I know as the law of right returns shows up for each one of us in our life, life becomes easier. Life becomes more joyful. Life becomes a celebration. And in that celebration, we always know that we are loved, we are lovable, and we are loving spiritual beings. And so I know this today. I release my word to the activity of the law, embracing this idea to its fullest, to the infinite capacity that I know I am. And I let go and I let God, as we joyfully say together, and so it is.